We're going to move on to, unfortunately, some breaking news. It's been out for a few days now, but we're recording this on Tuesday, the 23rd of July, 7:45 at night. But obviously now it's not really breaking news, but it's still very, very, very big news. And it's Tom De Koning out for the remainder of the home and away season with a collapsed lung, but also a fracture in his foot. So if that's not already very unlucky that he has a collapsed lung, but he also alongside has a fracture in his foot. So Daff, let's just have a bit of a conversation about this because this is extremely detrimental to. I mean, he is detrimental to our structure right now with what he's been able to do as a sole ruckman. But now with this player who has really evolved this season in 2024, now being out for the rest of the home and away season, what's your thoughts initially on the collapsed lung, which is very rare, but also for a fracture in his foot, which is two pretty significant injuries? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, when you look at that, you probably think the lung would actually be the longer injury, but it's probably the foot that
Foot.
actually is longer. I feel like with those types, because he hasn't done a Petrarca where he's done a spleen and a lung, and like it was more of it was obviously still bad, but yeah, when I saw collapsed lung, I was like, oh yeah. When they reported that first, I was like, not good, but then I was like, oh okay, might be 3 weeks, and then obviously they found out about the foot, but um, it's obviously disappointing. But I must say, we are. People talk about Peto's 4 year deal, Pato. That's why he's on a 4 year deal, Pato, because he is there. He is ready to hop into this position. He brings different strengths. We know that. He's not going to be TDK, and TDK isn't Peto. They both bring different strengths, and I think we can use his strengths at the moment, to be honest, at the centre bounce. I thought, Jerry probably had the better of TDK last weekend in the ruck. I thought in that first half he really dictated the game. I'm not saying TDK's out is great or anything, but yeah, get him right. He's probably been banged up the last few weeks, hasn't he? And this I did read a little bit of an article just then on SEN, and the TDK camp aren't necessarily too happy with Tristan Zeri and the way he went about it on the weekend. Yeah, there's so the lung was obviously due to contact with Zeri, which was actually a contact where he chose to go. And then he's also targeting the foot of TDK for the rest of the game when he came back on, which is something, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, you get to try and get an advantage on a player, always, always. But doing it like that, and then he ends up being out for 5, 6 weeks, I think it's something you could probably look at. And, they're looking at head injuries, Pato, but you look at that stuff, fuck, it cost you, your team the season. And I look at Jacob Wiedering as well. I feel like some of those corkies aren't necessarily a coincidence. I think it's a lot of kneeing in the back and kneeing in the quad. In a final, you go, fuck, who are you going to target? Probably Wiedering, aren't you? If
Mhm.
he's out of the game, we're probably stuffed. So, yeah, that's an interesting kind of view on those injuries.
Yeah, well, it's even small things like Petrarca, like the injuries that he sustained in that collision. It's like
Yeah,
car crash injuries.
yeah, yeah, yep.
But even like Tom De Koning, like a collapsed lung. How
Mm,
often do you see that in AFL footy? I just said it then. It's rare, and
mm,
it's happened in the span of 2 or 3 weeks with Petrarca a few weeks ago. I don't know how
yeah,
long it was. What probably 4 weeks ago now, but
mm,
it's just unbelievable, and that's why. So when Tom De Koning came off for about that halfway, I think it was probably about a half of a quarter. Has there been a comment on what the reason was as to why he came off? Because I initially thought it was concussion. I thought it was
yeah,
like 20 minutes of it.
yeah.
It was quite weird because then he came back on. I'm like, okay, well, he probably was just a concussion and he got through the test in the end. But has there been any update on why he actually came off the field? Because he was off the field for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, no, I think it was the foot for sure because he didn't have the collapsed lung. He didn't feel it until an hour or half an hour after the game. So obviously it was probably from a collision maybe late in the game and something minor maybe, but it was definitely the foot. It was running in the rooms and testing that, and they jabbed him 1,000 times in the foot to get him right. And gee, the way he played that game, it was a credit to him. Like seriously, you could see the discomfort in his foot when he was kicking. He just wasn't get. Well, he still got the penetration, but he
Mm.
you could see it a little bit. Like it was just it wasn't that normal TDK penetration with ball in hand, which is fair enough. Like he's got a fracture in his foot, but yeah, I think they dealt with it okay. And obviously, Harry Mackay's been a bit of a talk in the media, but I feel like that's a bit of a far-fetched kind of thing. Like it wasn't really some of the knockouts and some of the concussions are really clear. But I feel like the Harry one, like you could see him straight after, of course, being laid out on the ground. But sometimes that could just be winded. I know he looked kind of dazed, and people are talking about that. But it's not that easy for doctors to just go, "Oh yeah, let's just bring him off the ground." Like, what happens if you just have a collision, you get straight back up, and you actually are concussed, and you're looking like you're not concussed? You know what I mean? So it's a bit of a grey area at the moment in terms of the AFL landscape. But Harry kicked a goal, and then he went down and did the test, and he was all good. So he'll be raring to go for the pair this Friday.
Yep. And like that's the thing, like as soon as the incident happened with Harry Mackay, you could see that the doctors and the trainer got together straight away. So they didn't see straight away what, and then I think as soon as he kicked that goal, he then came off and did the
Yeah.
test.
Yep.
So it would be a different story if he didn't end up doing the test, because I definitely do agree. I did think he looked quite
Yeah.
dazed. But as you said,
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean that you're concussed. Like you're probably just a little bit like, oh Christ,
Yeah.
like it doesn't, not every single incident that like when you're dazed, it doesn't mean that you're concussed or it's a concussion. It means like it might just be a little bit of shock of
Yeah.
yeah, like just like a bit of impact and not really expecting it. But
Mm.
I guess the question is with Tom De Koning is what to do from here. So Mark Pitnet has always been when he's played for Carlton, he's always kind of been not really he's tried to be the number one ruck, but he's kind of always been behind the Tom De Koning as Tom De Koning's always been the ruckman that we've always wanted to see in this position right now, where he is right now as a sole ruckman and one of the premier ruckmen in the competition. He's never been able to get in front of Tom De Koning, unfortunately. That's just how the AFL style of football nowadays. It just suits Tom De Koning better as a ruckman. But where do you think we go from here, Dapper Boys? So obviously Mark Pitnet is going to come straight in. You would expect. But do you think there will still be Harry Mackay as a second ruck? Because we haven't seen Mark Pitnet have this bracket of games, because now it is 5 games and he's not even confirmed for week 1 of finals. Like it's not like it's the rest of the home away season and he's right for finals. Like it's the rest of the season, and that's if all goes well.
Yep.
He might need to like there might be a bit of trouble along the way, and he might then be extended once again. So, do you think Harry Mackay will still be the second ruck, or do you think we might have to call up a guy like Alex Murkov as the second ruck? Because no, I mean I'm more asking like, we haven't seen Pitnet as the sole ruckman before. We've kind of always seen him alongside Tom De Koning, and then he's had a few games, of course, but this year it's kind of always been with Tom. So, what's your thoughts on that?
No, it'll be him and Harry. I think it has to be. And I've got one clear point, and I never want to see it ever again while Patrick Cripps is playing. If he is in another ruck contest, what is going on there?
He will be.
What is going on there? Kane Corns pointed out yesterday, and I couldn't agree more. He's your best player. He's about to win the Brownlow, Pato. He's in the peak of his career. Like, put anyone in the ruck. Put anyone in the ruck but him. Like, honestly, it's like in the Giants game, it was clear. He was the only one winning the ball, and he's in the ruck. So how are we going to win the ball out of the middle when he's in the ruck? And, he's getting, and the way Tristan Xerri was throwing his body around, we're lucky that he didn't get hurt as well. You just never know with these big, beefy boys in the ruck who are on Cripper. Like, you just never know. He might pull his shoulder and pop his shoulder out. He's out for the finals because he played in 2 ruck contests in a game. I want nothing to do with the ruck in terms of Cripps. It'll be Pito and Harry. And if it has to be anyone as the fucking one running around, just put Kennedy in there or something. Just break even. But even then, it gets to a point where it's like, fuck, I don't know. But, if I'd imagine Pito, like I've been saying, with his aerobic capacity this year, he has improved that vastly. Because he's always that kind of old school kind of ruckman, but obviously he's got fitter, and he's being able to run out games. And like you said, he probably can do an 80-20 split, to be honest, the way he's going.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I think I've kind of liked the opportunity of
Yeah.
Marpet because I think he's well and truly deserved it. And I
Yeah.
mean, by all means, I've never even considered bringing in Alex Murkoff, but I just wanted to see what your opinion was as to like Marpet hasn't had the opportunity as the sole
Mm.
ruckman before, and like we don't know how he would go with because he is kind of only played that 50% ruck time. Let's be real, maybe 60-40 with Tom De Koning going forward, but we haven't had that, as you said, the 75 to 80% ruck time with Peter. Like you kind of mentioned about the like the endurance that he's really improved on this year.
Yeah,
It will be tested in the next 5 weeks because
for
heading into
sure.
finals. Because also, if he performs
Yeah.
tremendously,
Mm. I
it's
know.
the conversation's back. The
Well, I
conversation's
think he's
back.
like you said, I think he's the right guy. I think he'll be up for it, to be honest. Oh, I looked, being a nuffy today, I looked at his matchups for the next 5 weeks, and it's like they're doable matchups.
100%.
Really, like look at this week. Obviously, they got Jordan Sweet. Soldo's out with injuries. Still got 3 weeks to go in his rehab. So Jordan Sweet, that's doable. Next week, Collingwood, Darcy Cameron, that's doable in my opinion. They've got Cox coming back, so obviously that's another challenge with 2 rucks against him. But I think he can do that. And then you got Hawthorn with Big Meek. They're probably the right matchup, aren't they? I know Meek's been probably the top 3 ruckman in the league this year in terms of his form. Even when they did have that down patch Hawthorn, he was a standout. But then you got, West Coast Bailey Williams, he's not even a ruckman. He has to play in there because Flynn's out. You know what I mean? You look at that and you go, Rowan Marshall, it's doable. Like he's a good player, but Pito is up for the task, and it's not a ruckman who's afraid of the bright lights of big games and stuff like that. He's played in big finals. He played in the finals last year. I know it's a different, like you said, it's going to be a solo kind of rucking, but he's still got Harry there with him. So yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Well said.